Today, exactly 59 years ago, NASA sent the first hominid, a chimpanzee, to space to see whether we can survive and operate simple tasks in space. And just a few months later, we had the first cosmonaut, and right after an astronaut in space. And back then, human spaceflight was all about surviving and winning the race. In 2020, human spaceflight is all about the experience. Because you are launched wearing diapers, your drinking water is recycled urine, and you get to eat rehydrated scrambled eggs. It's quite amazing. And there is a reason why human spaceflight is not as sci-fi as we like to think or imagine, because the ISS is a science lab, and everything that is designed and developed for that, it has to be considered in terms of safety, robustness, circular systems, if it fits the payload, all these kind of things. So what do you think? What is the weakest link when we think about going to Mars? I would say it's the only thing that we didn't design for this mission. It's the human itself. And currently, there is not really a good, feasible countermeasure for the quite severe bone and muscle loss that occurs when we live in weightlessness for longer periods of time. So my work is basically figuring out how bone architecture occurs on Earth. So when we stand up against the gravity and our postural muscles hold us up, how do we stress those bones so they become essentially strong? And then I kind of reverse engineer all that and figure out, so when you take the gravity off and your muscles are all relaxed and a bit lazy, how do you get them back working again? So they would put this weight and stress back on these bones so they would essentially remain healthy. And also, how do we do it non-invasively? So not mechanically squeezing the body, nor sending electric currents through your muscles, because it needs to be good and comfortable for the astronauts, because they are doing some of the most amazing science experiments there at the ISS. So they need to feel good and comfortable wearing that solution throughout the day. This Antagonist exomuscle bodysuit, it is still in development, but in its essence, it's a gym. But it's just in a format of a membrane, and then it's kind of programmed, bespoke actually programmed for a specific astronaut, so it would keep the postural muscles active throughout the day. And just as you right now are loading your weight-bearing bones, but you don't really think about it. Your body is quite clever and does it itself. But very soon in the development process, it became quite clear that narrowly engineering and figuring out the solution for just the bone and muscle problem is not enough. Because the human body, you can't really directly re-engineer it like you do a rocket or a satellite, nor you can't really understand or describe it through just inputs and outputs. The human body needs to be approached as a much bigger system. So you cannot isolate one physiological system from another, from the human mind, and from this new environment that we have to deal with. So I've ended up developing an entire set, an optimal set of microgravity wear. So besides exomuscle bodysuit, everything you need, so from your socks and underwear to your daily wear and workout wear. So when you live in weightlessness, you will feel good. And there are quite a lot of considerations. You have very limited cargo. You have no washing machines. So one of the things we are making is very, very fine antimicrobial base membranes. So you can wear them underneath those technical garments and suits, so essentially to keep them clean for longer and usable for longer. And also we use novel fibers. This one here is quite clever. It takes advantage from your body heat, the far infrared rays. Another one is this one, and this is all about when you sweat in space, because also that is different. So there is no convection basically in zero gravity. So warm air does not rise up. So when you work out and you sweat, it creates an aura around your body. And this textile is specially developed to deal with that. I have had the great chance to be trained at one of the finest men's bespoke tailors in the world. And maybe that is the reason why these amazingly ill-fitting cargo pants the astronaut wear, they cause a quite big deal of pain in my brain, and sometimes more than the artificial muscles of the bodysuit. Because you see, these cargo pants, they're off-the-shelf merchandise, and they are cut for our straight earthly legs. But as you probably noticed, in space, you get something that's called the neutral body posture. So it's something like this. And also, your body proportions change. So blood moves towards your heart, and you get quite puffy torso and really, really skinny arms and limbs. So everything in this set is tailored for those bodies. But we don't have those bodies on Earth. So we fit and we actually figure out how the body is all in simulation in 3D software. And while trousers and shirts for astronauts, I mean, it's mainly a comfort and like functional issue. Maybe for some it's an aesthetic issue, but astronauts, they don't really complain. They are kind of the perfect robots. Then with more technical, with the exomuscle bodysuit and spacesuits in general, how it's tailored not only to the 3D form in space, but actually the 4D form, it's really crucial. Two examples of that is, first of all, when they do a spacewalk and they are out floating, they are not walking with their legs, they're walking with their arms. So that kind of changes quite a bit. Another example is of a Japanese astronaut. It was like 2 years ago. When you go to space, for the same gravity reasons, your spine, the lumbar spine, it elongates. And his spine made a record. In the first 3 weeks at ISS, it grew 9 centimeters. So he was half joking that because he maybe won't fit his flight suit, nor the Soyuz capsule seat, he can't come back home. So there are quite a few such things to consider, and that's why how you think, how you put on suits, and how you move in them is really, really essential. Because donning and doffing the EVA suits, it's an hours-long process. And if you think about, if you would need to put on a normal, regular, tight bodysuit, it's really, really complicated because you have nothing to push against. When you push against something, you float away in the opposite direction. So that's why, like, normal logic of normal garment closures don't really work there. But as a big picture, spacesuits and microgravity wear, they are not just practical, functional, protective shells. They actually give us the very human identity in this alien environment. And, you know, for a long time, prior to when we went to the moon. It was believed that we will go in these hard, metallic, engineered, quite sci-fi looking Litton Industries AX and RX suits. But we actually ended up going in something much, much more human. Because the A7L suits that walked on the moon, they were white, they were soft, they were sewn on regular sewing machines by a company that originally made women's bras and underwear. And it makes actually much more sense, because if we like to think that it's our cortex, so the thinking, logical, analytic brain that wants us to become superhuman and go to Mars and build the next great startup, that's the brain that is in charge. But actually, it's our limbic system, the monkey brain. The brain that gets a dopamine rush when it sees a banana, that's the brain that is in charge. And it's very, very evident in extreme situations, in extreme environments. So, that's why it's really, really important that all how we design, all the small details of spacesuits and how it feels like wearing them so you feel good and supported, and how the interiors of the space station is designed. And how do we connect to this environment? How do we connect to our own monkey brains there? And how do we connect to what we left behind back on Earth? It has a very big role in keeping the monkey happy and sane and content, and essentially giving the astronauts this support and confidence they need to do science. You know, they 3D print human organs right now in the space station, and that they take on this next journey to the moon and then to the Mars. My final thought comes from Professor Stephen Hawking. He said that we are just an advanced breed of monkeys on a minor planet of a very average star. But we try to understand the universe, and that makes us quite special. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. You were speaking extensively about the way that the body changes in space, and you need to modify the rules, the fundamental rules about designing what fits, because the body just changes so significantly in space. What would be some of the ramifications of taking the clothes that were worn in space, or the designs that you have, and then wearing them here in the gravity? Is there any benefit to it? Can you see that? Or the lessons learned from that?
I mean, with everything that's developed for space, not only the clothing, it has actually very direct implications here on Earth. When we speak about the exomuscle bodysuit, maybe it will help a few hundred astronauts, but it will help a lot of people here on Earth in bed rest, kids with or musculoskeletal diseases. When we think about normal garments, you know, in terms of sustainability, space is the ultimate challenge and you know, the ultimate target. If you can figure out a really good system that works in space, it will improve our lives here on Earth a lot.
Very interesting. Oh, good. All right. Thank you very much. One more round of applause for Anna Talvi. Thank you, ma'am.